So I'm down 300,000 in 2 days. That sucks, doesn't it? Uh, Probably a little more today because the market was down today also, but I haven't checked on it. So I think I'm doing surprisingly well considering that I left my job January 1st and I was planning on drawing down a little bit of that each month to sort of meet my living expenses and, you know, go uh, tanking the market for no reason at all with your crazy tariff delusion seems like a horrible way to sort of experience exactly what sequence of returns risk is, and it's not a theory anymore. I'm actually living it. But you know, I'm not freaking out like I did in 2008. You know, in 2008, the first time I lost tons of money in the market, and you know, I had graduated law school, started making some money, started investing, things are going right. And then when the 2008 financial crisis happened, you know, nothing I was doing seemed to work. Everything that I bought would crash. And, you know, it wasn't just me, it was everyone. And I think I lost more than I should have back then. And part of that was the mental side. So thank God I learned from my mistakes. And I'm not panicking like I did in 2008. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I was panicking. I wasn't going to jump out a window or anything, but, you know, it was lots of sleepless nights. And, you know, I grew up poor and, you know, had worked all my life to put myself through school. And then I'm finally making money and socking it away. And then it's all disappearing. So that was kind of a freak out. But, you know, I think, um, as I said in the previous video, working on the mental side, not the number side, helped me deal with a lot of that. So Peter Lynch said, you know, if you can add 8 plus 8 and come up with a number that's close to 16, you have enough mental horsepower to be a good investor. But, you know, the most important thing is the stomach, not the head. And this time around, I really see that with everyone panicking and everything like that. And there are some things that are helping me. Like I know if I looked at the screen while everything was tanking, that would bother me. So I'm making a conscious effort to not look at the screen and do other things to distract myself. So I have two other YouTube channels, and I've been posting videos there, and it's keeping me occupied. You know, shooting the videos, editing the videos, putting them up, answering the replies, and it's helped for two reasons. Like one, it's distracting me, which is fine, so I don't have to look at the market. And two, one of the other channels I have is sort of a channel I started with my buddy Dave, where we would sort of co-host and look at things like the Darrell Brooks trial or the trial of Alec Baldwin, the shooting trial, and we'd make commentary on it. And you know, Dave's a buddy of mine from jiu-jitsu, and you know, he likes to smoke weed a lot, and you know, he's a funny guy, and so we had a really great time. And I let that channel go dormant, and then when this federal firings and everything like that started happening, I sort of turned it back on, and I was posting videos advising people on their rights and what to do and things like that. And all of a sudden, it went from like 130 subscribers to today it hit 2,000, and it got monetized. And you know, the money is not going to make a big difference in my life. I think last month it made like $75 or something. So, you know, it's not going to make a difference economically, but it's doing two things for me. One, it's keeping me from checking on the market. It's giving me something to do to distract me besides going for a walk. I can go for a walk, but today the weather is bad. But also, you know, I'm helping people. So, you know, these people are freaking out. They're worried about their jobs, and I'm sort of giving them their options and showing them, you know, the statutes and the OPM guidelines and telling them what their rights are. And, you know, they thank me in the comments because, you know, their HR people are overwhelmed or they don't have the money to buy an attorney. And I'm not an employment attorney. When I worked in the government, I worked in finance. But, you know, I have ADHD and an internet connection and a law degree. And, you know, you put those three together. And I feel like if somebody has a question, I have a good shot of finding the answer. And, you know, people have been very appreciative in the comments, and that sort of has helped me sort of stay positive because, you know, I'm not just sitting here losing money in front of a computer and feeling sorry for myself. I'm doing something that helps others, and that makes me feel positive. So there's stuff going on in my personal life that is also kind of stressful. So my better half has a serious medical condition, and she's going for her third round of infusions on Friday. And these infusions, you have to go and sit there for several hours while they pump this medicine in, and it's more than one day, and it's several hours each time. And the first two times, she got better, but it didn't quite take. So we're hoping the third time's the charm. And that's a lot of mental stuff to deal with. So doing these videos on my other channel where I'm answering questions and helping people that are struggling, I feel like that's helped my mental outlook and help me be more positive. So if you guys are watching this, just send some positive vibes, thoughts, and prayers on Friday, because we're going for round number 3, and hopefully third time's the charm. So I did mention some other stuff going on. I had some interviews lined up, and I had interviewed with 3 banks. One was in London, one was in New York, and one was in DC. And I am the world's worst interviewer. And I thought the interviews went well, but I didn't get any offers. And my real desire is to do something in green energy. And so I'm sort of trying to keep positive about that, because either one of those 3 jobs would have more than solved all my money problems. But I was willing to work in green energy for a half or a third of that price, that salary. So, it's sort of, maybe I didn't get it because I wasn't meant to get it, because I was meant to do this thing in energy that I want to do. And those interviews and callback interviews might be helping me move towards that, because I am a terrible interviewer. And then, I got some practice, and that'll help when I actually interview for the job I want. So trying to stay positive about that. The money situation would have been more than solved by any of those 3, but I did get practice interviewing, and I have a good lead on something that's sort of tangentially related to the green energy thing, and it's one of these companies that I saw a position that wasn't solar farms or wind farms or anything like that, but it was something tangentially related where it dealt with the grid. And if you know about electricity, as you move from one big power station to sending it to people's houses, and you're moving to solar and wind, it's sort of distributed and has to go both ways. Stuff involving electricity in the grid is implicated. And I saw this job, and it seemed really interesting. And it was less money than working at a bank, obviously. But I said, it's got a connection to green energy, so maybe that would be a way in. And then I looked at the company, and there's a guy I know who I used to work with who actually works there. So I'm going to meet with him on Friday and hopefully discuss it. And I did work with the guy, and super nice guy. He left my agency, and we had lunch a few times after that, because he's one of these people that's very easy to deal with. And in my division, people are nice to each other. And in the division he was in, the Office of General Counsel, it was sort of like Game of Thrones, and I can see why he left. The 2 nice people I know that worked in that office ended up leaving because of the work atmosphere. But he's one of the 2 people that was very easy to deal with in that division. And so I'm going to meet with him Friday, and maybe something will come of that. So, I'm as I said, I'm trying to keep positive and helping others with that other YouTube channel who are going through a hard time. That's helped with my positive mental state, and, focusing on, helping my better half get through these medical issues. That has sort of helped me have a sense of purpose also. And, I was a little bummed that none of these 3 banking jobs worked out, because with the market tanking and everything like that, I could really use the money. But, I think long term, it's not what I wanted to do. So I think this other job, which would be for half what I would make at a bank, I'd be more than happy to get that salary and be doing something involved in green energy than I would working at a bank, shuffling papers around and just making rich people richer. So, I think for what I want to do and what I want to see in my life in this next chapter after leaving government, that's where I would like it to go. So that's where I am now. I'm not freaking out about the market because I haven't checked on it. But yes, it's not clickbait. I did lose 300,000 in 2 days. And today the market was down again, so it might be more than that. And I guess I should be freaking out because, growing up, as I said, I grew up poor, and $100,000 seemed like an unimaginably large number. And I remember when my dad sold his house and moved to Florida, it was $200,000 he sold it for, and I just couldn't believe that a house was worth that much. And now I've lost three, and I didn't even lose a night of sleep. And I'll check after I finish with this video, but it's 300 and counting. I don't know what it is today, but I mentioned in the prior video that if you have a roof over your head and food on the table, then anything extra is just really a story that you tell yourself. And so if you're going to tell yourself a story about money, tell yourself one that makes it easier for you to live your life, not one that torments you. So Elon Musk has hundreds of billions of dollars, literally. So he lost more than half his net worth since hooking up with Donald Trump. And even though he lost half his net worth, he's still the richest man on earth, and he has more money than he can spend in 1,000 lifetimes. And yet he was on TV tearing up, almost crying that the price of Tesla shares got cut in half, and that people were mocking him for losing money. That it just hurt so much that he lost that much money, and even though he's still the richest person on earth. And I think that's a sickness where no matter how much you have, it's never enough, and you just want more and more, and you do unethical things like align yourself with this convicted felon to get him elected. And Elon Musk has donated $350 million so far to that campaign and that man, and he tried to spend $25 million to rig a campaign in Wisconsin. And for what? Because he's still the richest guy on earth, but he just wants more and more, and he'll never be happy. There's just a giant hole inside him, and the more money he gets, the more he wants. It's just an incurable sickness. And there was a famous story with Joseph Heller and Kurt Vonnegut, and they were at some rich hedge fund guy's beach house in the Hamptons, and Vonnegut said to Heller, this guy's bragging about how much he makes. You realize he makes more in 1 week than you'll make in your entire life from selling that book, Catch 22. And Heller said, yeah, but I have something he'll never have. And Vonnegut said, what's that? And he said, I have enough. And, I think that's a good way to feel about things, and if you, as I said, are going to tell yourself a story about money, tell yourself a story that makes your life easier and that makes you be able to look yourself in the mirror. Elon Musk is, there's pictures of him now walking around with a bulletproof vest because everyone hates him and he's paranoid. I don't have as much money as him, but I don't wear a bulletproof vest. I don't have to look over my shoulder because anyone I've worked with, any of my neighbors, people at the gym, anyone I've interacted with, I don't think you could find any one of them that would say they've been treated unfairly by me. So that's the way I live my life, and that's the story I tell myself about money, that I have enough and there's no amount of money that would tempt me to do something unethical. So and I could tell you a story where I could have made a few $1 million, and I didn't because it would make me a shitty person, and I don't want to be that person. And when I see stories like Sam Bankman-Fried, and not only did he steal all that money and defraud people, but his parents helped him launder it by, putting houses in their name and everything like that, allegedly. Uh, and I just wonder, like, what kind of story do you tell yourself about money that you find out your kid is doing something that is going to send him to jail, and instead of discouraging him, you're putting things in your name to help him hide the proceeds. I think that's just really a disturbing attitude about money and material things, especially if you're already rich. It just doesn't make any sense. And I have an uncle who passed away recently, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but my family is from Chile in the Patagonia region. So, farm people, riding horses, uh, things like that. My grandfather was a cattle rancher. I was involved in timber and stuff like that also. But my uncle was an accountant, and he worked for the equivalent of the Chilean IRS. And, he was very honest, as the day is long, no corruption in his body. And he taught accounting classes at the college. And when I went to visit, and we went to a bank to change from dollars for pesos, and some of the people at the bank had been students of his. And so one of them said, like, "Oh, come over here. You don't have to wait in line. I can take care of you." And he said, "No, I'll wait in line," because he thought if everyone else waits in line and you let me cut, that's a form of corruption. So, when I think about people like Sam Bankman-Fried stealing and his parents sort of being involved in that instead of being horrified by it, I don't get that, because if I lived in a giant mansion and my uncle, who refused to allow one of his former students to let him cut the line, even though he was elderly, if I showed him my giant mansion and he said, like, "Oh my God, this is incredible. Like, where did you get the money for this?" And I told him I stole it, I'm sure he would have never talked to me again. So that's the story I tell myself about money, that, it's just a thing, and it helps you to eat and keep a roof over your head. But if you have food and a roof over your head, there's nothing that any amount that should be worth you doing something unethical or screwing people over. And there's people in this current administration that don't get that, and in the prior administration also. Elon Musk, the richest guy on earth, and he's trying to fire federal workers with no notice and ruin their whole lives so that he can get even richer and launch his penis-shaped rockets into space. It's just a sickness. And even the first time around, during the first administration, they had a guy who was the Treasury Secretary, and he worked at a investment bank that had foreclosed on a woman and sold her house, foreclosed on her because when she paid her mortgage, she was short 13 cents. So, this was an old lady who writes checks by hand, and, if it says $400 and 13 cents, you put the 400, forgot to do the 13, and, they sent her notices, which she probably didn't read because she's elderly, and took her to court, which she didn't know about because she didn't read the notices, and foreclosed her house and sold it for 13 cents. So that's the kind of sick people that were in the first administration. And in this administration, you have even worse, a guy who paid $350 million to get in that position of power and is using it to steal as much as he can. And, I'm glad I left January 1st. I don't want any part of that. And, I can honestly say, like, I left at the right time, because, I just, ethically, I don't think I could live with myself if I did that. So I could live with losing $300,000. I wish I didn't, but I don't think I could live with myself if I was doing things to support this administration and these corrupt grifters running crypto rug pulls the day before he takes office. And even right now, if I go on YouTube, I used to be involved in foreign currency, and so I'll see ads for Forex and gold with one of the Trump sons shilling for this company. So, they're just horrible people, and yeah, they're ruining the country. And the people that voted for them, I don't think they're smart enough to know how bad it's going to get and what a big mistake they made. And I don't wish ill on anyone. So when I see these FAFO videos, I don't get happy that these people are suffering, but I don't have any sympathy for them either. Like the people I have sympathy for are the people who didn't vote for it and are suffering, like the guy who is a father and was wrongfully snatched up and deported to a notorious prison where it's basically a concentration camp, and they refused to admit their error and take them back. Even though there was a judge's order saying you couldn't do this, it's just blatant lawlessness, and they're trying to destroy the country. But yeah, so there's lots of things to be upset about, but I'm trying not to be upset, and I'll focus on the positive. I have the other YouTube channel where people have questions about their rights and things like that, and I can answer them as honestly and as helpful as I can. And we have to go on Friday for this treatment, so I'm focusing on that. And it is what it is. I didn't get either of the 3 jobs that I applied for in banking, and that would have solved all my money problems, but it would have created a different problem, which was that I still am not doing something that I want to do in green energy, helping make the world a better place. So just reframing that in my mind, I did get 3 great first interviews, 3 great second interviews, and I was really rusty, and now I'm not as rusty, and I see where I need work. And, when I find the job that I want, then that's going to come in handy. So anyway, as I said, 300,000 and counting, but I'm okay. I still have a roof over my head. I still have food on the table. I still have my better half. I have my dog, and just trying to stay positive. So things that I've done, as I said, I mentioned a bunch of books in the last video that help with mentally handling losses as opposed to just the math about investing, because the math is the easy part. But also, doing those videos to help people, or fixing things around the house, or going for a walk, what do they all have in common? What they all have in common is that I'm not sitting in front of the computer watching the blinking lights and getting stressed out, because if you see the blinking red lights, the blinking green lights, you're going to be tempted to buy or sell, because that's what the brokerages want you to do. Those things are sort of look like a Vegas slot machine with the blinking lights and everything like that, and that's trying to get you to do something. And the worst thing that you can do is do something in a state of panic or when you're not thinking right. So, after the markets are closed, if you are calm and decide based on today's price, this looks like a good buy, you can buy. If you look at today's price and say like, oh, I think I should sell, you can sell, but it should be in a calm, reflective state, not in a panicky state where you're looking at these numbers jumbling around and think you're going to improvise. So I did buy a few things recently, even though I'm trying not to buy anything and just sort of brace for impact and wait for this whole thing to pass. But I did buy EPD, Enterprise Products, and ET, which is Energy Transfer. Not a lot, but a little bit. And those are both fixed income plays, and they own a lot of pipeline assets and things like that. And my thinking was, I liked it when it was higher and it was yielding a 6% dividend. And now that the price has dropped, it's yielding like an 8% dividend. And if you're going to tax steel and everything coming into the country, and these companies which have stuff already built, and so their capex is in the past, it's going to be harder to compete with them if your capex is in the future and you're paying 30% more for steel than these guys, where it's in the past and you paid 30% less. And they're sort of different apples. Like ET has some really premier assets, and but EPD has like an incredible balance sheet. And if you look at Their debt, some of it doesn't mature, most of it, like I think like 80% of it doesn't mature for 30 years. So, whether interest rates go up or down or steel goes up or down, you're sort of locked into this thing, which, if you own oil and natural gas pipelines, it's sort of like owning a toll bridge. So, but anyway, that's not a recommendation to buy or sell. It's just my thinking on that. And, you invest based on your own risk profile and everything like that. And for most people, that should be index funds. And, if you have index funds, one of the things you can do, and again, this isn't a recommendation buy or sell. This is just, thinking out loud of strategy. So if I had a lot of index funds, there's one that has the S&P 500. I think it's VOO and VTI, which has something like the S&P 500, but includes a lot more stocks. I think like 1,000 or 2,000. And they track pretty closely, not exactly, but they track pretty closely. And if you have a lot of losses in one, what you can do is sell this and buy this, or sell this and buy this. And over 30 days, they'll probably move pretty close together. And what does that do for you? Well, let's say you had 100,000, and then Trump started doing his crazy talk about the tariffs, and now you have 70. If you sell one and you sell the other, which is very close but not the same, you get to tax harvest that $30,000, get to declare that as a loss on your taxes. And 30 days later, you can sell this and move it back here. And there is a chance that, they moved a little bit, but because they have a lot of the same stocks, the diversion might not be that much. So, you'll have this huge unrealized gain if you have the S&P 500 and did nothing. But by switching to like the S&P total market index or something else like that, or the MSCI index, which is a lot more stocks, and they tend to move pretty close together, not exactly, but sort of like oil and gas move together, but not exactly. Over 30 days, you probably may not have much of a diversion, but it will allow you to lock in that loss, and then you can buy it back in 30 days later, and sort of declare that right off on your taxes. Where otherwise it's just a loss on your portfolio, and it's causing you heartache. But it gives you nothing good. At least this way it'll shield some of your income, if that's a strategy that you like. But again, talk to your tax accountant, talk to your investment professional. I don't give advice. This is just something that I thought about. If I didn't have individual stocks and I had index funds, this is how I would handle that situation. But anyway, I've rambled long enough. So like and subscribe so you'll see further videos. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And Friday morning, send some positive vibes my way towards her. Can't see her, but just know who she is and send it towards her. If you send it towards me, I'll pass it along. All right. So good luck out there, everyone.